Hello beautiful people, today I'm going to save you a ton of time by comparing a carefully selected range of projectors from the super budget sub US $100 to the mid-range branded projectors costing up to US $350, so you can work out for yourself which projector might suit your needs the best. And even if none of these projectors take your fancy, you'll at least learn what to look out for and mistakes to avoid in your search for the perfect projector. For your convenience, this video has been split into segments. So if you're in a rush, you can skip to the specific chapter markers below, but to get the full lowdown and to help make the video more easily found, watching from start to finish works best. Now before we get into it, I want to address the reason for doing these projector videos. About a month ago, I was organizing a family event and it worked out cheaper to actually buy a projector than to rent it from the venue. However, when I did my initial research, I found it incredibly difficult to work out what would be best for me, as the marketing information on the product pages were often incomplete, wrong, and as I found out later, sometimes misleading. Now, one of the key specifications people most look for is how bright the projectors are. However, there is no real agreed standard on how this is measured. So this lumens that you see very generously and liberally thrown about really is not a number you can compare most of the time. So as part of helping you decide which projector is best for you, I will be measuring the brightness using a light meter at two different distances so you can see how effective the projector is in actually projecting the image on a screen. And full disclaimer, my links below to the projectors may contain affiliate links, meaning a small percentage may go to me. Key thing is you won't be paying any more, and this helps reward me a little for the time and effort I spent in producing this video. Thanks in advance. Anyway, having said that, my goal here is to provide you the best information to help you make the best choice for your own personal situation. Let's get to it. The comparison review will be split into three key parts. Firstly, we'll be looking at and comparing specifications, highlighting key differences. Then we'll be looking at actual projector performance. And finally, I'll be sharing my overall impressions, review scores, and recommendations. Let's get started. All right, now it's time to take a detailed look at the specifications as presented on the Amazon.com website with their respective product pages. As you can see, I've got the 6 projectors listed up at the top here with all the different specifications down the left-hand side. Looking firstly at the pricing, you can see that the prices, depending on which country we're looking at, ranges from in the US anywhere from below $100 US up to $350 US. In Australia, on the sale price, it ranges from around $140 to $1,000, and in the UK from around £77 up to £360. For some reason, the Anchor is super expensive here in Australia. But anyway, this gives you a good comparison in terms of what price point we're looking at for each of the projectors in your respective country. I would always check whether there are sales going on. These were the sales that were happening at the time of this review. All right, now let's look at the actual specifications in terms of the projector output. Now I'm going to ignore the lumens first of all because there doesn't seem to be a standard way they measure this, and I don't really trust these numbers. So we'll basically get into the brightness based on real world performance, and I wouldn't take too much notice of these numbers at this point. Looking at the size, this tells you the biggest or the size that it can project range as well as a maximum. The Philips only does a maximum of 65 inches. That's a main thing to note here. All the other ones can go up to 100 with the Anchor, up to 236 with the Jaeger. So depending on how big a size you need, this may kind of narrow the field down for you. They all do 16:9 with the cheaper budget projectors also giving the option of 4:3. All right, so if that's important to you, that may be a determining factor. Of course, the resolution is something that we always look at. How sharp, how refined is the picture? And you'll see here the Filzen is the highest resolution at full 1080p. The others are mostly 720p, and then we've got the Elefas and the Anchor only at 480p. And we'll see how these play out in the actual real real world comparisons. Contrast ratio, again, this I guess gives you an idea of how well the colors can contrast. Here on paper, it shows a Filson being the strongest at 10,000, with the LFAS only at 2,000. Again, you'll be able to check this out when you see the actual projector comparison later on in the review. Lamp hours, that's apparently how many hours you can have the projector on before the lamp will fail. Who knows how accurate those numbers are, but they're probably all too big to worry about or to really have a deciding factor in which projector to purchase. The great thing about all these projectors is they've got a manual dial for the focus, which means very easy to focus just using a dial. The keystone for a lot of these also a manual dial, although the Philips and the Filson you have to go through a menu system, which I don't really like, but it does the job. The anchor is automatic. It automatically works out how to straighten up the image, so you don't get a warped image, so that's really nice. The Filson and the Yaever also have a digital zoom. Not quite sure when you would want to do that, but if you need to zoom up the image a bit, these two projectors can do it. All right, now let's have a look at the inputs. So firstly, they can all input 1080p. And this is what you'll see when you look at these projectors, is they'll all say 1080p, but they're not actually outputting 1080p. That what they mean is, or what their slick marketing trying to deceive you is saying that it will take 1080p, but it doesn't necessarily throw that same image out. So any 1080p or below should be able to be inputted into these projectors. We've got USB inputs on all of them. Now there's a phone tethering on the LFAS and the Yaever. I'm not quite sure what that means. I didn't get a chance to test it. And they all have HDMI inputs, with the Philips having 2, which may be nice if you've got a couple of devices that you want to hook up with, say an old school DVD player as well as an Apple TV, for example. Now the VGA is only on the budget projectors. The more expensive projectors do not have VGA. It's an old standard, of course. However, a workaround is you probably get a VGA to HDMI adapter if you needed to input VGA. On the other side, I guess, if you need something to output from a computer, then maybe these budget projectors will be more suitable. They also have SD card slots. The Philips were using a micro, and the Filson and the Anchor do not. AV ports they all have, which basically means you can output using a mini jack to a output to some speakers or your home stereo system, which I would advise to get a full cinematic experience. And they all have Wi-Fi as well. All right, now looking at the sound. Some of these didn't have the data there, but basically they all seem to be around 6 watt. It looks like 4 to 6 watts. Enough, but not great. I do believe the Anchor gave the best sound of the 6 projectors. As shared before, they all have audio out, with the Filson and Anchor also having Bluetooth. So you can not only use Anchor as a Bluetooth speaker, but you can also Bluetooth the sound out. They all have remote controls, and the Anchor has also the addition of a phone app that you can use to control it. So that's really nice. The Anchor is also the only one that's mobile that allows you to actually use it without plug-in power, with a battery life of 4 hours. The Anchor, being the portable one, of course, is the lightest and smallest at 632 grams, and the Filson the heaviest at nearly 2 kilos. Of course, all that doesn't really matter unless you're using it for a portable purpose. And that about wraps up all the specifications for these projectors. If you want to go more in depth in terms of each of the projector product pages, I do that in the individual projector reviews. Check them out. The links are below in the description. In this comparison video, I will not be doing a detailed discussion comparing the operation of the different projectors, but I am providing some footage of each projector's menu systems so you can get an idea of what the look and feel is like. The Anchor Nebula Apollo definitely had the most refined and best user interface, followed by the Philips Neo EasyPix. The other 4 projectors had usable operation menus, just not as well designed and sometimes a little bit ugly. See the individual projector reviews for deep dives on how they are to use. What I have done is film each of the projectors turned on so we can evaluate the operation noise. Here are 5-second clips at about a distance of 1 meter from the respective projectors to get an idea of how noisy they are. The Apollo was definitely the quietest, followed by the Filzen, the Jaeger, Elefast and Philips NeoPix were all about the same, and the QKK being the loudest and most harsh sounding. That being said, once you play sound from your media, the operating noise is pretty much inaudible. Let's now take a look at the image quality. For this comparison, I've lined up the images of all 6 projectors and will be playing them all at once, so you can firsthand compare the brightness, color, and contrast. At the beginning, I've just labeled them 1 to 6 to give you an opportunity to judge the performance of each projector without any preconceived ideas. All the projectors were set to neutral settings and played onto a white sheet in complete darkness. I would recommend grabbing a piece of paper with numbers 1 to 6 and making any notes as you watch. Try and guess which is which. I will reveal which projector is which image in the last few seconds of the footage. Good luck. Were you able to guess correctly? Anyway, with the images so small sharing the screen with each other, the next specially selected 30 seconds clip will allow you to check how well they score on resolution and sharpness and if you can spot any pixelation. These videos are labeled A, B, C, D, E, and F, and the projectors will again be revealed in the last few seconds of the clip. Let's roll. By the way, I've also uploaded this edited footage so you can see how the video looks directly on your monitor. Link below. How'd you go? Were you able to identify the fills in full HD compared to the 480p of the LFAS and the Apollo? Which image did you like best? Were you surprised by the results? We've got one last test, and in this one, we'll be comparing how the images look in an action film, Shang-Chi. The first part will be a direct comparison showing all 6 screens, then followed by each of the projectors at full screen size. You know the drill now. See what you think. By now you should have a pretty good idea about which projector image you like the best. We'll now do one last comparison looking at performance by the numbers before I share my overall thoughts and scores. Okay, to make things easy, I've created this table and put the key performance indicators between the projectors. The first up, what we're looking at is the size that these projectors can project onto a screen. And you'll see most of these budget projectors, they're projecting at 64 inches at 2 meters. The Philips slightly larger at 65, the Philson slightly smaller at 57, and the Anchor slightly larger at 67. At 3.5 meters, they are projecting around 115 inches. The Philips, of course, cannot get any larger than the 65 inches. And the Philson, again, about 10% smaller at 102 inches, and the Anchor slightly larger at 116. Now, of course, one of the key things that we look at in projectors is how bright they are. And here I've actually gone and used a light meter to measure the brightness in the center and at the edges of the screen, including the various colors of green, blue, and red. And you can see here white at the center. The budget projectors are around 100 to 140 or so. The Philips is the least bright, according to the measurement of 63, and the Philson the brightest at 253, with the Anchor on par with these budget projectors. Now, if you look at the colors, you'll notice that the green, blue, and red progressively get less bright across the different projectors. So this will be important if you know how much of a drop off is going to determine how all these colors are going to look on the screen. And you can see here the red is definitely the least bright and can be as low as 13 lux or as high as 33 with a Philson. The other key thing that we're looking at is the drop off. That is, how bright are the edges compared to the center. And you can see most of the budget projectors are around 60% drop off. The Philips slightly more at 67, 68%. The Philson not much better at 44%, and the Anchor with the most consistent image across the screen at only 19%. Of course, all that matters is how they look, and you've already made a judgment call on how satisfied you are with the appearance of those images with the test that we ran before. But these are the actual technical results I got using a light meter. Now, looking at the sound quality from the speakers, they were all okay. The Philson being very good, the Anchor the best. However, I do recommend hooking up some proper speakers and a sound system to it to get the best effect. Operating noise, again, we did that test. You got first-hand experience of how loud they are. Once you play something, it's really not noticeable. The QKK was the loudest, but really, not noticeable once you play something. Anyway, that's it for the numbers. Let's head on to the final thoughts, conclusion, and my ratings. After spending considerable time comparing and testing out these units, there are some clear winners in specific areas, but no one clear winner. Which one is best for you really depends on your budget and your needs. There is, however, one model I definitely do not recommend based on the poor image quality and pixelation. Sorry, LFS. I have noted, however, they have released upgraded higher resolution models which may address this shortfall. I'll include links to these upgraded models below. Next up, we have the other two similar size projectors, the Yaever and the QKK, also sold as the QAK in the UK. These two have similar performance, both providing reasonable value at this price point. And really the choice between these two would lie on your preferences on how they look and the cost in your country. Next up, we have the Philips. The Philips delivers the smallest image of just 65 inches with the least bright image of the group. The main reason why you would pick the Philips over the others is if you prefer the security and support of a big name brand and like the aesthetics of the Philips better. Do note, for these 4 projectors, I do recommend hooking them up to some external sound system, as the standard speakers generally won't provide a good cinematic experience. For the brightest and best quality image, the Filson wins hands down. This would be the pick if you wanted the best image for a reasonable price out of this group. And this leaves us with the Anker Nebula Apollo. For overall best quality materials and overall design, Apollo is the one. It's also the smallest and most portable, and the software interface is the most polished and user-friendly. Plus, it has a rechargeable battery to boot that provides up to 4 hours of use, which would be super useful, especially if you wanted to indulge in some outdoor cinema. While the Apollo provides a very good image for 480p rivaling the 720p projectors, it just can't compete with full HD quality like the Filson. However, it does provide better sound in terms of separation and clarity. Here's a quick summary of my overall scores I've given each of these projectors. Anyway, I hope this review has been useful in helping you select the right projector for your needs. Love to know what you think, especially if you have any one or more of these projectors. Hit me up in the comments below. Don't forget to check out the in-depth individual projector review videos, links in the description. Okay, that's all for now. Thanks for watching, and remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification button so you don't miss any future videos from me. See ya!